Have 5 tips for how you can use generative AI, such as ChatGPT, to really help you when you're creating resumes or cover letters. The value of generative AI is it allows you to create new information. And so when we say generative AI, it's really broad category. And it includes things like ChatGPT, Google's Bard, Microsoft Bing, Claude. Today's presentation, I'm going to talk about ChatGPT, but keep in mind, you can use any of the different generative AI tools. As long as it's a program that helps you to generate novel information, it's going to work. So the first tip is you can actually use ChatGPT to tailor the content so that you're making your resume and your cover letter unique to every single job application. One of the challenges when you start to apply for jobs is each of them have just a little bit different criteria, a little bit of different needs, a little different description, and it can take a lot of time to adapt each one of those to make it to where your resume and cover letter are uniquely relevant to that job. You could actually come in with ChatGPT and you could say, I've attached my generic resume and I want you to highlight the skills that might be most important. How would you tailor this content to be most relevant? So in this case, I have an example resume here, and I actually said I'm applying to a job doing entry-level, data analysis for a marketing company. Reading this resume, how would you highlight what's most important or uniquely relevant for this role? And so the generative AI is going to review that attachment. So you need to start with your own resume, and it's going to read through it. And it's going to tell you, in this particular case for this job, here are going to be the things that you're going to want to really emphasize on that. Now, once you've done that, and you're ready to really move into the next stage of like, okay, I have the ideas. What do I do with it? Now you can move to step number 2. You can use it to improve the language and tone. So now you could take this information and you could say, rewrite my resume using this feedback. And it's actually going to be able to suggest different language. It's going to be able to be more clear. It's going to be able to tailor that and provide suggestions for you that are uniquely relevant to your resume as well as to the role that you have. I would even suggest if you have a job description, something provided by the company that you're applying to, you can upload it as well. So you can actually attach your resume and ask it, what skills or qualifications would be uniquely relevant. And then in your second prompt, you could either copy and paste their job description, or you could upload that job description and you could say, now take my resume and this job description and suggest some more effective language that I could present in my resume or my cover letter to just be more direct and clear, showing the alignment between these two positions. Or let's say you're wanting to really explain what you did here. Here's another prompt. You could actually come in and say, I have done this in the past, and I'm just not sure how to word it. I don't know how to explain it to someone. So you would just tell ChatGPT what you've done. In this case, I said I worked as a research assistant in the psychology department for 3 semesters. My main job was to manage the subject pool and coordinate assignment in the research rooms. But I'm applying for a job to be a manager of a clothing store. So 2 things that on the surface seem very different. But you can ask it, how do I best convey this information? How would I tie these 2 things together to explain my background as its best fit for this particular job? And it's going to give you some examples of how you could word that and how you could phrase your experience to make it look uniquely relevant for this particular role. Likewise, if you have a cover letter, you could simply upload the cover letter and you could say, how would I now create a cover letter with this job description in mind, utilizing the key skill sets that you've just identified? You may have noticed as I'm giving you these examples, I keep telling you what to do in sequence. Oftentimes people will put too much into a prompt in ChatGPT and then they're not happy with the output. So rather than coming in and saying, I'm applying for a job as a manager at a clothing store, give me a resume and a cover letter, it's more effective to start by having ChatGPT look at your resume, then you telling ChatGPT, this is what I'm doing, how would you tailor it? Then ask it to rewrite it for you. And then once it's done that, you can now say, draft a cover letter that reflects this. So by working in steps, ChatGPT gets really specific targeted information so that it can be a lot more helpful in making it clear that this isn't a generic resume or a generic cover letter, but it's really uniquely tailored to the needs of this particular job. My third tip then is actually to use it to generate ideas and examples. Oftentimes when you're applying for a job, particularly a student applying for your first job out of college, you might not have good experience for that particular role. You might not know how to explain what you've done in relationship to what it's looking for. So you could actually come over here and you could say, I have no professional work experience. See my attached resume. And then you could say, how do I explain my qualifications for data analysis? I'll just say that one again because that's the first thing that popped in mind. And so you could just upload that resume, you could grab it here, and then you could have it look at that resume and just provide descriptions for you and explain what that could mean. Now, let's say as you're looking at this analysis, you're like, oh, that doesn't quite capture it. You can actually come in and even ask it to be more specific. So you could say, my background is in sports and sports leadership. I have played competitively for years. Perhaps you just don't have that kind of experience. And then you can say, how would you explain the value of this to this employer? And it's going to, I'm going to go ahead and stop that first one that it was doing. And it's going to now take what you told it, like, yeah, that's true about me, but really, I was all about sports and I did have a good grade. Now it's going to be able to start to tailor that and give you different ideas for how to explain what you've done in a novel context in ways that maybe you hadn't thought about being able to showcase your skill set before. The next idea is to actually just use ChatGPT to give you feedback in general. So maybe you've already written a cover letter or you've written your resume and you could simply upload it and you could say, review the attached document and just give me feedback. Analyze it. Tell me, is my flow good? Should I organize it differently? You can be really specific in what you ask ChatGPT. You can even ask it, should I put my education first? Should I put my work experience first? Or you can just generally ask it, what suggestions would you give me for improvement? How would you pinpoint areas that need more detail? Are there any areas where I gave too much detail that I should be more concise? The more specific your prompt is, the more effective ChatGPT is at really giving you the kind of feedback you need. So think of ChatGPT as your partner. You can talk to it in a really conversational way. You can tell it things like, I don't like that, or I disagree, or you made me sound way too sophisticated, but you want to really communicate with it and share with it what you want, and then give it feedback on how well it did so that you can continue to go back and forth until you get a final product that you're happy with. My last suggestion, and this is one that we often don't think about when we're applying for jobs, but most job applicant systems now use an applicant tracking system. It's called an ATS. And essentially, it's its own kind of AI, where it's going to have a computer that is reviewing your initial cover letter and resume. Chances are, especially if you're applying at a big company, it won't even be a person that first reads your letter on your resume. It'll be a computer. And that applicant tracking system is going to screen all that information, and it's going to provide feedback to the employer about which applications look valuable enough to have a human actually look at them. And so getting yourself through that applicant tracking system is really step one. And the way to do that is to have the right keywords, because that applicant tracking system is looking for keywords that tell it that you are the right person for this particular job. So you could actually take and upload your resume or your cover letter or the job description itself, and you can ask ChatGPT to review the job descriptions. You can ask it what keywords are important. What do I need to make sure I have in my cover letter? In this case, I haven't actually uploaded a job description, so let's pretend I had one here to upload. It was going to review it, and it's going to say, here are the important keywords. And then you can come in next step and say, okay, here's my cover letter. How would you adjust the cover letter to make sure that I've included these keywords so that I get through that applicant tracking system? As I've indicated several times, the key to effective use is for you to give it really specific information. So if you want generative AI to help you write a resume, you're going to need to tell it about yourself. And if you don't have a resume to start and you aren't really sure what you need to do, you can actually even hop into ChatGPT and start by telling it, I need a resume. And you can say, ask me questions one at a time until you have the information you need to create a resume. And ChatGPT can actually start walking you through and create that first draft of the resume for you. But don't stop there. Once it has started to create the first draft, tell it what you like, tell it what you don't like, tell it what skills aren't reflected or what things need to be highlighted, tell it areas that maybe it made you sound a little too impressive for what your actual background and qualifications are. So you're going to want to interact with it. And then once it's created that initial resume, now you can go to the next step and say, now I need help creating a cover letter. And if you don't know where to start, you can tell it, ask me questions one at a time until you have the information you need to help me draft the cover letter. So be very detailed, be specific, and then use it in an interactive fashion. Generative AI's real value is that it's conversational. So you're going to want to interact, give feedback, clarify, and validate to really get the most out of it when you're writing your resume and cover letter.